In this part, I'll be talking about how to reduce the number of items or resources that you download in your script by using whitelist and blacklist in your recorder. So if we just open the recorder, so we're going to use the same har file. So let's just use the har converter, and we use the BBC har file. And essentially, so you have two options here. So you have whitelisting, meaning include this and nothing else, or blacklisting is don't include these. And in the blacklist, you have another option here called no static resources. So we could, for example, like we discussed before, you might not want to include your images or whatever in your performance test. So if we click this one, essentially it will do a regular expression to ignore these components. You might add more. It's just the standard JPEG, icons, ping files, etc. But you can obviously add more stuff, more static files there. And essentially, if we now do start, it will overwrite existing. That's fine. I've renamed actually the previous entry, so that's okay. So if we now go, so it's created basically a new simulation based on the har file, but ignoring some of the items on the blacklist, and you can already tell that the size of the file is quite a bit smaller. So if we view this now, oops, hello. Sorry. There you go. If we do request next, let's see. So we still got some sort of extra graph there that we didn't ignore, but we shouldn't have really any images here anymore. Sometimes images might not have the extension in the way that you expected, or not at all. You still get displayed as an image. So there's still quite a bit of stuff in there, but it's definitely smaller. Well, it is smaller as size, at least. Yes. So another way of doing this is you can say we'll do a whitelist instead. So let's just clear the blacklist, and we can be as specific as, let's say, we only want that particular request only. So let's say the whitelist is that ignore everything except that particular URL. And if we click start this time, and we'll overwrite. If we now jump back in here, that will look dramatically different. The recorder simulation is a lot smaller now. So if we view this now, it's a lot more manageable, right? So you have one setting for your protocol, one header. There's a couple of extra URLs, and then essentially just get there. They get there as last news with headers defined in this map. So let's have a look actually before we do that. Okay, so interestingly here we're doing the inferring HTML resources based on the blacklist with no definition, whitelist with absolute path only. So if we now run our test, let's see what happens. Let's clear the recorder. And so this time we should get a lot more condensed reports. Okay, I think we have a clash. Yep, we have a clash of class names. Let me just rename the class name here. Yes. Okay. Let's try again. My apologies. Right, okay, so we got this new simulation, so let's run that again. And this should be pretty straightforward. There should only be one request essentially. And that's a report. There was no errors this time. Let's compare it to right, so there is exactly one request anymore. That's a successful. So the report looks straight away a bit more condensed. It's still saying request underscore 0. So we can do a couple of changes now to our scenario. Recorded simulation. So first of all, we're not really using these guys, so let's just get rid of those. And we can add, instead of request 1, we say BBC news landing page, for example. And let's run this again. Just leave this open while that compiles. So essentially, what we come from a script file with potentially hundreds of lines into a very condensed and understandable scenario. Now, whether that's what you want to run as a test, whether you want to run that one request and ignore everything else, so it's something that you need to decide. Let's start that now. But I would say most cases that's probably closer to what you want to be doing, instead of having all those requests that it's kind of difficult to understand or interpret. Okay, so if we now open the new result, hopefully the naming is a bit better this time, and it says BBC landing page took 579 milliseconds. Right? Okay,